So I mean, I'll talk to these people that have owned these properties since the 70s, and they have it paid off completely. They have 100 units, 200 units, and like this one guy I'm thinking of in particular, I call it Sherman Village. Like he lives in this area, and he owns all these buildings in this area, and all his residents are in this area. So when I want to talk to him, I'll just go there. I'll go there and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And he lends money to his tenants too. So he lends money to his residents. Yeah, it's crazy. Never seen anything like it. But up here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, there's a lot of people that have owned these properties and done things different from how the new generation is coming in and doing them. I see a lot of people where everything's written down. Like he'll lend out money and he'll write it down on his hand. He's got like 15 people coming to pay rent and he'll write it down on his hand. So, and when you're working with someone like that, when you're trying to buy their properties, like that their expenses, that their rent roll probably isn't 100% accurate.
Right.
So we're not even talking like we landed like on a 12 unit building for 134,000 gross income. We landed on like a 300,000 cash number and a 345K number seller finance, and it would have been 20% down with I think it was financed over 12 years at 4%. The monthly payment would have been like $2,400 or something like that, and it would have cash flowed great. But we decided to wholesale this one because there were three people on it. So me, my business partner, and then somebody else, and we couldn't figure out how to work together. So we decided to just assign our rights to this. So we got it back down to cash because most people like to buy cash and then refinance. And I think it's like an 18 cap, at what we're asking for it. So that's a phenomenal deal. And I just don't know. I mean, like in Des Moines, how are the property owners? Like, have they owned them forever, or have they changed hands a lot?
There's a little bit of everything. There's not a lot of, I mean, it's a small city. There's always construction happening, but not as big as you might think. I think the last time we pulled a list of mom pops, um, between what was it, like 8 unit to a 40 unit.
You just froze.
Um, yeah, we didn't really get that many numbers. There is not that many that are owned by a single person or just like a family. And caps over here are more on the sixes, which is surprise because over there 19, that's a huge number.
Yeah, that's a fat cap rate.
Yeah.
But I mean, on average, it's like, I mean, you see some portfolios go for like 7 caps or 8 caps, but the appreciation in this market has never been here. So you have to buy for cash flow. And one of the things that we're seeing is New York and New Jersey, because regulations are getting so high, and New York City is getting rougher because some of the government policies that they're
Yeah.
making there. So people are looking to get out. I'm working with so many people that are coming to Scranton because they're looking at like the rent to price ratio, and it's literally like an hour and a half from New York City. Amtrak just got $66 billion to build a new Amtrak railway to more through Allentown, then Morristown, right into New York City. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of all those things. Maybe Scranton is finally becoming a market that people want to invest in because these surrounding markets have gotten less desirable. So we're seeing a ton of money come in from New York and New Jersey, and that's why I've stayed here because I want to be here for the upside. Scranton, Pennsylvania has always been like a coal industry town, and that was its peak. So seeing all this money come in, it's really encouraging. And I just don't know a place where you can go and you can find a guy that has 200 units and he paid like pennies
Yeah,
on what
pennies
it's
on the
compared
dollar.
to today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess it will be a bad strategy to leave in a place where you can find so many value add properties.
yeah, and I think anytime you're in a market, so we wholesale a lot, we flip, but like our primary objective is to buy and hold because anytime you're wholesaling, anytime you're flipping, it's so stressful. It's just a lot, man. I really like operating multifamily. I like having apartments. The cash flow comes in every month,
Yeah.
and it's just way better. When you're wholesaling, you might get 10 deals one week, and you got to do all 10 deals to be able to make your monthly whatever. Um, and then you might go another month with no deals. You know what
Right.
I mean? So,
Yeah.
so what we found is like, there's like, there's all these different ways to find sellers, like cold calling, direct mail. You can go door knock. You can go around, drive for dollars, put sticky notes. You can tear paper plates and post that on the door and be like, give me a call. You could do whatever. We pull code violation lists. We pull all these different lists. We have VAs that cold call. But we found that the leads that come into us are always better quality leads. So we found going inbound is a better way. So instead of us cold calling or doing direct mail, which we still do that, um, we've been trying to establish like market authority so that people know who we are. So if you want to sell a house fast or quick, or you want to get rid of a rental property, you just call me. So we're
Mm.
trying to build that market authority, and that, that's having the Google, your SEO needs to be good. You need good websites. When somebody types in sell my house, Scranton, you need to be on the first page. We're looking at like getting billboards. We're on placemats all over restaurants. Pretty much everything, and it's weird how in this industry the marketing techniques that seem outdated in every other industry still work. So like direct mail, cold calling, the restaurant placemats. That's I don't think a lot of tech companies are using those methods to market. But in real estate, that's like the go-to. I guess because the demographic we're targeting might be a little bit older.
Right.
I'm not sure.
That might be
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. How are you standing out on the marketing that you're doing? Like, what stands out about your page, your marketing, that direct mail? Because everybody else doing it. Like, dude, I can walk one block and I will see we buy houses and then 5478 and their phone number, right? They're all over the place. What are you doing to stand out?
Right. So we're just showing up, man. So you might see those We Buy Houses all over the place. But when you call them, who answers and how do they answer? And are they going out to the property right away? Do they have an accent? Is it a VA in the Philippines? Is it somebody in India? Like who is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I've got two phones here. This phone is for signs inbound, and then this phone is for like, I mean, they're both work phones, but I answer it right away, every ring, and it's me. I say hello, and I have a great conversation with the seller, and then I go out there the next day. If it's like an inbound bandit sign lead, and I don't think other people are doing that. And then when it comes to prospecting and cold calling, I don't think people are following up. Like, I mean, you got to follow up with somebody 10 times maybe before they'll actually agree to a price, especially if somebody's in foreclosure and you're trying to do a subject to deal. Like, that person is going through immense amount of pain. So it might take 10 calls to really build that rapport with somebody where they know that you're not just going away, because you're also competing with all these other wholesalers, and all these other wholesalers, they might make one call. That's great. They might make a couple calls, a couple offers, but they're not going to call week 10. They're not going to call week 10. You know what I mean? And that's how we separate ourselves. We just show up every single day and we do what's on our to-do list every single day. And that's it, man. But I really don't think you have to be good. I don't think you need to be, you obviously need to know what you're doing, but you don't have to be like some master closer. You just need to show up every day.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I think the phone idea it's pretty good because in my personal opinion, like I've been using one phone. It's crazy. You don't know what's what. You don't know who's calling, when's calling. Like you don't know if it's family, friends, or business. It's a mess. So I'm gonna take your advice on that. Talk to me about the cab rates in Pennsylvania. Like what are you looking at? What's your average multifamily deal over there? What does that look like? What are the payments like? Are they like you were asking me? Are they old people? Are they like they don't know how to manage it? How's that like?
Yeah, so Pennsylvania is a really big state. We have Philadelphia, we have Pittsburgh, we have Harrisburg. And so those are going to be different cap rates than what I'm talking about today, because we're primarily focused in like Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, Columbia County, and then like Cole townships. So Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, those are going to be most of your multifamily deals. And I'm not buying a deal under a 10 cap there. Like that one deal that we just negotiated, that was a 19 cap. Um, and I don't know what somebody else will buy for. I think they might buy for a little bit less, but I know for me personally, I'm not buying less than a 10 cap in this market. And I think you get when you go to Philly, you get down into those compressed cats rates that are similar to other large cities. But I honestly think there's more of an economic uh, there's going to be some economic trouble coming. I think the other shoe still hasn't dropped. I spend a lot of my free time reading like Ray Dalio's work. I really like Ray Dalio. You should check him out. He was he founded Bridgewater Associates, one of the largest hedge funds in the country. And now that he's retired, he's put out all these books on his principles for investing and just principles for living in general.
Yeah.
But he wrote a book called Navigating Big Debt Crises, and that basically looks at all the economies over the last 500 years. And he breaks it down. He puts news articles in there, but you can see how there's like a similar trajectory throughout all these different economies and how the same thing happens over and over and over again. So I think we're in one of those periods where we're in a debt cycle. And I think, there's a commercial real estate issue where a lot of the regional banks have been lending on real estate. And I think, some of the asset prices, some of the cap rates have to go up and the asset prices have to come down still. So, I don't even look at like what's trading in Philly or in Harrisburg or whatever. Like I'm in my own world. Like I'm buying at a really good cap rate or I'm not buying. You know,
Yeah.
we're young. We have a lot of time. I'm going to be in here for the next 40 years doing real estate. So like, we're not trying to have the conversation we're trying to get the best price possible,
Right.
especially being a wholesaler. You need to be really low. So like that guy I was just telling you about, the 12 unit that we're buying at like a 19 cap, which actually we're wholesaling that because it needs too much work and there's three people. Um, like that wasn't somebody where I need to approach him. Like I think a lot of people, a lot of syndicators, a lot of people that raise money, a lot of people that try to buy multifamily, they're super in tune with the numbers. And I'm a numbers person myself. But what I found is when you're dealing with somebody like this guy, he's owned the property since 1974. Somebody died in one of the units, and they condemned one of the units. And like he's tired, man. He's super tired. So rather than have the discussion about like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up because all these different things need to be repaired,
Yeah.
we had the discussion of like, what's up with you? Like, what do you want to do with your life? I could tell that you're kind of tired. You're in your 70s. Like, is it time to walk away? And when you have those discussions and you talk more about the pain and the motivation rather than the numbers come later. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
we can have a conversation and we can kind of come up with a number just based off the pain. And I know what, I need to be at on a 12 unit building. I could pump it into a calculator real quick at 50% expenses at a 10 cap. And I know as long as I'm way lower than that, I'm good to go. So, we just had that conversation and that guy was willing to hold a note, right? Because if he sells, he's going to get hit with taxes. Like he already
Yeah.
sold a property this year. He's going to have to recapture that depreciation, all these different things. And he knows that as well. So him holding a note, holding a mortgage at an interest rate, it was only 4% interest, but still that's better than, walking away with. So we agreed on 300 cash, 345 finance. And the 300 cash, what would he have walked away with? Less than 300. So if he held the note, he would have been able to get that monthly cash flow. He would have got the full value of his asset. So that's the conversations we're having. And like his son, he wanted his son to be involved, but his son didn't want to be involved. So, this is me going out and meeting with this guy over a year. Like it's not just like one conversation done. It's like a year.
Mm. I see what
You
you're
know what I
saying.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just one person. It's this guy and then 10 other guys that own 100 properties. And you're going out and you're building rapport with these people and you're getting to know them and you're becoming their friends. Like I feel like I'm friends with this guy, and I would love to hang out with them. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
so we were able to work off a deal based off of that, and then the numbers came later, if that makes sense,
I see what you're
right?
saying. Yeah. Yeah, because in a lot of cases, like building that relationship helps a lot. Because at the end of the day, like everybody can make money in a good transaction, right? Because if you don't like, you can always negotiate something with the seller. Like if either you want everything up front, well, then you gotta give me terms in one way or another. There's gonna be a negotiation process, and I feel like when the seller is open to those conversations, it's only when you have already let them know that you're not there to take their money.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had people, so like I'm selling a duplex right. I'm selling two duplexes, one in Dixon City and one in Bloomsburg, 1027 Grant Court, Dixon City, PA, and then 516 518 East 4th Street, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. And somebody like when I was talking about selling that 4th Street property, they're like, "Oh, would you do seller financing?" I'm like, no, dude. Like, like maybe if you would have talked to me for like
Yeah.
10 hours and we would have gotten to a conversation about how you really need this to happen and it would just be so great if we could do this and maybe I would have considered it more. But you can't just go in and pitch like a seller finance offer. Like, who are you? Like, yeah, okay, great. I would rather cash. Like that sounds a lot better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and don't get me wrong, I think cash is the best way to buy. If you have millions of dollars sitting around, using cash is the best way, like 1,000%. But a lot of us, just like I would imagine that you don't have millions of dollars like sitting around,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So I didn't get a loan from my parents or anything like that. So instead, we're just out here grinding. We're finding good deals. We're making value happen out of nothing. Just
Hmm.
like you with your podcast, like you're creating a ton of value for other investors like me, where I can watch your content and learn. I mean, it's all about that. Just like Terrence Doyle, how he calls himself the value add dad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about creating value, man. And I think in this business, like you are creating a disproportional amount of value. You are creating so much value, especially when you redo like that 20 unit building that we bought. I'll tell this story because it's a really good story.
All right. Hit me with
So,
it.
all right, my business partner, Jordan Ambrose. So we started working together a year ago when he messaged me on Facebook. He didn't even message me on Facebook. He said, like, he made a post and he tagged me in this post. It's like, Jake Arnold, I need to talk to you. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. So anyway, it was on a Tuesday or something. So I messaged him and he's like, yo, I have a 20 unit building. They want to sell it. It's student housing. I heard you're the one that knows about student housing. And this goes back to networking. Networking is so important. He got my name from somebody else because I was telling everybody how I was learning about student housing. So anyway, we start talking and we go and meet with the seller. Long story short, there's a 20 unit building in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, 201-207 Millville Road. We bought it under RA equity. It is completely vacant. There's one resident there, and I don't think they're paying rent. Like they were growing weed in the unit. They had like large dogs. It was terrible. So we negotiated with the seller. We offered him $850,000 cash because we were going to wholesale the deal. And then somehow, we went through a master lease option. We went through contract for deed. We went through all these different things of where we could try to buy it somehow. It turned out we ended up buying it for 1.1 million, and the seller held the note, all of it. We brought 15,000 down for the closing costs, but
15,000.
15,000, yeah. So we came up with 15 grand to help with the closing costs. And then after we closed, to be able to renovate the building because it was vacant for
Yeah.
all winter. So we had some burst pipes. It needed a new paint job. It needed some new flooring. So the seller wrote us a check for $80,000. So the
Oh
seller he
gosh.
wrote us a check for 80 grand and put it on second lien and amortized it over 30 years uh, to get the renovation done. So we bought it 1.1 million, 5% interest over 30 years. It steps up to 6% after 18 months and then 7% caps out at 7% after 36 months.
Oh, like an
And it's still
adjusted mortgage.
yeah, it's like so it steps up every 18 months and then caps out at 7. So if you're buying a larger multifamily deal, typically you have like variable rates no matter what.
Yeah.
And you could buy like rate cap policies. But when you're doing seller finance, like you can negotiate a way better deal.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the first larger deals I've done. So I didn't know how to negotiate it 100%, but like now a lot of our mortgages are non-recourse. If there is a variable rate, there's rate caps on it. Um, but oftentimes, like we try not to make any balloons, no variable payments, none of that stuff. We'll
Mm,
try to trade with the down payment or the monthly payment to get rid of some of those features. But yeah, we bought that property. We had no payments for 3 months. Um, we went in there with $80,000. It was not enough. We needed way more, but we got it done. We hired local people and we had a scope of work. This was our first time ever putting together a large scope of work for a
yeah,
20 unit building. And we had to make that mortgage payment at the end of month three, which is 6,500 a month. So we fixed everything. We got it occupied right away. We did month to month leases to get it occupied quickly
yeah.
because people like that. We still, screen them. We did background checks, 600 credit score or higher, no violent criminal offenses, and 3 times monthly income. And now that property produces 17,000 gross income a month. Um, I think the cap rate on that is like 10%, and it's worth 1.6 now. So we added 400,000 in equity in those 3 months, and it was one of the best deals we did.
That's
But the thing
awesome.
is, I kind of thought it was like a unicorn deal. I'm like, wow, this doesn't happen a lot, but it does. This happens all day.
Yeah.
Like this happens all day, man. You could go
Mm.
out as long as you're meeting with these people that own these buildings. It makes so much sense for them to hold the note rather than sell it all cash because they're
Yeah.
going to get hit with taxes. They're going to recapture appreciation, all those different things.
Okay, but this guy not
And
only so a lot of questions, right? But like I think that the self-explanatory thing is that you were solving a pain. So I don't think he will want to get rid of something if he didn't have a pain point, right? And he also gave you cash on top of that so you could take the property away from him, right? What was
right,
his pain point? What were those conversations like?
right. So that's great point. Yeah, I skipped over that part. So his cousin was managing the property. So he was a landlord and he lives like 3 hours away. Very successful, very wealthy. He bought like $7 million. He deployed $7 million into Bloomsburg, and his cousin was managing everything. And
Yeah.
during COVID, his cousin started stealing the money. So they went all cash, and his cousin started just pocketing all this money. So he obviously super upset. He tried to help out a family member. Family member screwed him. He went up there, he kicked everyone out, got rid of his family member, and then he was probably distraught. You know what I mean? He's probably like, man, like this sucks.
Yeah.
And he had paid cash. He paid 1.575. So he paid almost 1.6 million for it. And he sold it to us for 1.1 on a note. So he took a loss. But yeah, so he had a ton of pain and we helped solve his problem. And now, he's a private money lender for us, all that different stuff. Like if
Oh,
we
you didn't burn
yeah, if,
that bridge. That's huge. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, yeah, you don't, one of the things about real estate is like, yeah, integrity is everything, man. Like this is a long-term game. This is chess. This is
Yeah.
not checkers. And when you're in your 20s, if you are like me, like this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 40 years. So like
Yeah.
I can't damage my reputation. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to be around for a long time. And that guy's a great guy to know. But yeah, I mean, we pay him 6,500 a month. He gets some interest on his money, and like that net cash flows like 3 to 5 thousand a month. So literally that one deal, Pennsylvania, it's not super expensive to live.
Yeah.
You could live off of that one deal. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people think they need to do all these different things. Like really, you need to buy one good deal and you're
Well,
good. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like that
Totally.
that one deal, we hold that until we're 50 and we're automatically millionaires. You know what I mean? It's really not that hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to look at it. I guess my last question will be on that note, how did you prove to the seller after he got screwed over that you weren't gonna screw him over in the same way that his family did? Like, what are those conversations like?
They're like, I mean, there's nothing really, so it's all in paperwork. We screw him over, he gets the property back. one of the things we do when we're negotiating seller finance to increase credibility is we talk about a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Now that we actually don't have a deed in lieu on this deal, but on other deals that we do, if credibility is an issue where they think they might get stuck, if we get abducted by aliens, I think that's Pace Morby's line that I
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
stole.
yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah,
Yeah, it works, dude. Pace Morby's the best, man.
he's
He
the
really
goat.
is.
He's the goat.
He's if you want to learn creative finance, you should go to Pace Morby. You shouldn't listen to me. But
Yeah,
uh, so deed in lieu is a way to basically, if you miss one payment, they can take the property right back without going through the foreclosure
mm,
process.
I see.
With this one, the guy, I mean, it was me and Jordan, and then we actually had a third partner. The third partner ended up backing out the day before closing, but I think he just saw, like we met with him, we had lunch, and this isn't one meeting. This is multiple meetings, right?
Yeah,
And I think, you know, he was a good judge of character. He was able to tell that, like, okay, we want this to happen. We're going to make this happen. When he wrote that $80,000 check, he's like, yeah, you guys can just run to Vegas right now, but I
yeah,
know you won't. You know what I mean? So, and if we did, like, he would have been able to get the building back, all this different stuff. But you know, I think just being an authentic human being
yeah,
and being truthful and having integrity, it shows.
yeah. No, I totally agree with that. That was, I guess that's super interesting. Yeah, credibility, to a certain extent, you can only certify how much integrity you have by the business that you've done. So, but man, Jake, this is so much information, man. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. This was a lot. Like, we didn't even have an introduction because, like, no need. Like, it was just pure golden nuggets right there. Pure multifamily in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, man, Pennsylvania, Scranton market is I think it's promising. I don't think you can get cash flow anywhere else in this country. Well, there probably is some places, but
Yeah,
there's excellent cash flow up here. It's a market I want to move out of at some point, but
yeah,
it's a good market to get started.
yeah. Same as Iowa, man. Well, if you made it this far in the video, hit the like button, subscribe, go follow Jake and Arnold on all social media, and I'll see you guys on the next one.